Hello, my name is Rory. I'm the Methodist minister here in Haxby and Wigginton and part of the team that is in ministry at Central Methodist Church in York. In March this year, I conducted a funeral in Fulford Cemetery, a burial for someone who died after a long and an interesting life, someone who had died reasonably peacefully, someone who had a large and extended family and lots of friends. But I gathered there with the undertaker and with just a handful of close relatives on a very, very bleak March day. I stood with the undertaker on one side of the grave with the family some distance away from us, their backs to the wind and John and I facing into the wind. And it felt like I shouted for 20 minutes into the wind so that they could hear me, as we did our best to, in a dignified and fitting way, say goodbye to someone that they'd loved and had shaped their lives. And I remember walking back to my car and coming home and feeling just really disturbed by everything I know that those moments could be, that moment had not been able to be. I then did 4 or 5 funerals in a quite short period of time at the York crematorium, when the crematorium had erected a large gazebo outside and 10 people were allowed to be there for 10 minutes to do the same, to try in 10 minutes to do justice to somebody's life. Complex lives, long lives, interesting lives, difficult lives, in all the complexity of family and relationships and the stories that might have been told and the words we might have used, even just the pausing for a minute. All of that became so constrained by the understandable but very difficult limitations of the crematorium's life early on during coronavirus. I came away from those equally disturbed and equally unhappy, not because I felt that the undertakers, myself, or the crematorium had failed families in any way, but because those moments felt so insufficient in themselves. They felt so much less than they might have been. And so we decided here at Haxby and Wigginton to use our church. We can't meet in it at the moment. This is the first time I've been back in for several months. I'm here all on my own. But we decided to use the front of our church. We have a porch with glass on 3 sides. And to turn that into a wall of remembrance. And so at the moment there are about a dozen faces and names of people who have died, who either I as minister have conducted funerals for or are in some way connected to our church or anyone in our community who's experienced the loss of a loved one, someone they cared about, from coronavirus or any other cause of death in these last months, where they've been unable to travel, unable to attend a funeral, unable to take part, unable to tell their stories, unable to laugh and cry and hug each other and do all the work that is the work of the day on which we gather in a place like this or a crematorium or somewhere else, to do the best we can to say goodbye to someone, however they've lived and whatever that day is. Our wall of remembrance is up. It's been up for a little while. I can't say that I know exactly how many people have paused to look at it or to take note of it or to spend some time with it, but there's a lovely lady called Pat who runs a nursery behind the veterinary practice next door and who sells her flowers and her plants in the car park of the veterinary practice. And I stopped to have a chat to Pat a week ago as she was reselling again. And she said that a lot of people are stopping and noticing and commenting and appreciating that. Even if there are only a few faces there compared to all those that we know, for sure our community has lost and loved and is grieving. That what we're doing is something that symbolically at least is important for our community. When we come out of lockdown, whenever we can, my plan is to try and host some kind of communal event where we just read the names of all those that were offered who've died. We might do that on the playing fields or somewhere else, but to do that even in a way that contains no religious elements to it, but to gather as many in the community as want to just remember the names of those who we've not been able to say goodbye to in any way that felt sufficient during this coronavirus time. So in a moment I'll show you some pictures of the outside and what the wall looks like at the moment. But a reminder to anyone in Haxby and Wigginton who wants to contribute to that. You're very welcome to do so. There's no question of anyone needing to be affiliated to the church, having any set of religious beliefs. It doesn't have to be someone who's died in Haxby and Wigginton. We want to have the names and faces of those who have died, whose lives and whose deaths especially have affected somebody in our community, so that somehow together we can have somewhere where, even though it's imperfect and only in part, we can be a community grieving. We can be a community missing the people we've loved, feeling the pain of not being able to attend funerals, a place where people can leave flowers, a place where people can stop to give thanks for their own lives and the lives of the people they love, and to remember those who died and the families of those who died and friends of those who died, who miss them and miss them particularly during this time. If you'd like to contribute to the wall in any way, you're welcome to get hold of me. My email address is at the end of this video, or my telephone contact details, and I can send you some simple information that will help us to prepare a page that we will put up on the wall and leave there for the foreseeable future. We have no plans to take that wall down anytime soon, and so it will be there for as long as it needs to be there, until it feels right for us to remove it and for us to then in some way move on as a community, still holding those people's lives in our own. But it's there to stay for as long as it feels right to do. And if you'd like someone's name, someone's face, even just someone's name there and not a photograph, you're very welcome to be in touch. All names, all faces, all remembering is welcome when it comes to the death of anybody whose life and who's dying has affected you if you live in our community.